So we're working on this type of passing, type of shuto-uke technique. And one thing to consider when you do all this stuff is that, yes, sometimes you are kind of slapping things out of the way and throwing a strike, but you want to think also that there has to be a sense of touch there and some type of energy transfer. Feeling when the tension releases so that you can flip over and do something else. Kind of like you're holding something up and then you turn and let that thing fall over, right? Or someone's leaning against you like this and you're holding them up and you just let go and they fall down like that, right? So if I go to here, the stereotypical one is kind of just to slap and move off to the side, right? But if you apply tension, right, if you have your hand kind of on your opponent's limb, you can actually use it kind of as a wedge. So for example, I have cross pressure here, and I can wedge underneath. I have this motion like this, right? So instead of going here and then disengaging and going underneath, or even just passing it like that, anytime my hand disconnects from my opponent's limb is an opportunity for them to take advantage and take over the tide of the fight. But if I maintain forward pressure and I kind of shoot through, and then you have motions like that, and actually the footwork allows you to kind of pivot into that. You're shooting through, and then you have your actual strike, right? So there's never a moment where I disconnect and I do this. But I can lean in and wedge forward. So one, 2-on-1, and then one disappears, right? I could do the same thing going on the same side, right? If I go here and wedge through, or here and wedge through, they're always kind of, this second hand's always kind of punching the wedge higher, right? So I'm going here, I can strike across and wedge through. That's kind of give me my entrances to cut the angle and stuff like that. So a lot of people I see, they do stuff out here, but there's so much room for error there, in the sense that your opponent can be faster than you, they can react better than you. But once there's connectivity, it's your sensitivity versus theirs. And this is pretty common too, where you're kind of passing underneath like this. This happens a lot. But even then, when you're passing, you're kind of passing up and down, right? A lot of people, they kind of pass kind of circularly in this plane here. Whereas if you imagine the shuto-uke kind of like as a wedge, then you're passing forward, right? Literally. So I'm actually shooting this way. Or I'm going here, like that. Or I'm going here, and I'm shooting through. So that means you have things in the katas where you can actually bring your elbow forward and kind of feed things forward as you're moving forward into it, right? I can block like this hand goes underneath and it's shooting all the way through. I can block this way, this hand goes underneath and shoots through. And you have things where you're kind of reaching backwards, right? And you're going this way. It's the same idea. I am wedging underneath with my forward motion, and I'm redirecting so I can go for the strike this way. All these snake fist stuff, these open palm stuff, allows me to pull down and kind of grab behind the shoulder somewhere, or grab onto the limb itself, right? I'm wedging through, grab down and you're going through like that. Wedging through, grab down and you're going through again. You have your elbows from here, or cut over the top. You can also bring the arm across. You have strikes this way too. But if you think of the limb as an obstruction, right, your opponent's limb, you kind of pass yourself around it, you go underneath it, over the top. But you always want to think about crowding their space and shooting past their center of gravity. Things like these where it kind of wedges and bridges. And then from there you are still bridging forward. And that's where all these things from our katas happen, right? Even from Goju Shiho where you're doing this, it's the same thing. I'm going underneath. I can even passing wedge, or call this a break, right? Over the top. But there's no point where I'm going disconnecting, 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 disconnecting. Everything's kind of passing along to the next hand as you move closer to your opponent's center of gravity. This passes, this passes, this passes, this passes. So you're just moving forward as you strike. Now you can see in all these examples here from kata, the second hand goes underneath the front hand and kind of slips underneath it, kind of like you're following the track of your forearm. This is kind of a shito-uke here. But notice how there's slippage happening, right? Kind of like you're wedging underneath something. The front arm kind of extends out and the second arm kind of just goes underneath. All right, so here are some examples of doing it, the wedge against the partner. So you have cross pressure here. You can see how I'm actually pushing and wedging that arm around to the side. And then on this one, I'm actually shooting through, kind of like what I was displaying on the bar outside. I want to use that second arm to slip underneath and actually make contact with my opponent's arm, kind of wedge my way through there. Kind of like you're piercing through their center of gravity and occupying their space. And whatever follow-up you want to do from there, that's up to you. So now I'm going on to the inside with the other hand. So notice on this one, my second hand that sweeps underneath kind of pushes off to the side more. Now I'm actually trying to shoot through a little more. Now right here, this is where I was talking about releasing that energy and just letting the person fall through. You see this movement in Goju Shiho a lot where you point the elbow forward. So person's applying pressure to your forearm, you kind of open the door, open the gate or whatsoever, and then allow them to crash in. And in doing so, they're going into your center, which you then get to throw your strikes. So right here, this drill is just developing the sensitivity to kind of hinge your elbow and just let them go past that pressure. So right here, there I'm leading forward with my elbow, kind of like I'm allowing the pressure to end and then pointing my elbow forward, just like in Goju Shiho, and letting them land into the point of the elbow there. All right, so try it out. Enjoy.